Good afternoon, everyone. So, reviewing options, and yet again, another pitiful morning. Now, yesterday morning finished slightly green. Friday was the first red morning in a while, went 0 and 3. Today was pretty much the same as Friday, did not have a single green trade. This marks 5 days in a row, 5 trading days back to back, of the first 20 to 30 minutes being absurdly choppy. And as you guys know, trade the first hour because it's not choppy typically. And when it's choppy, more times than not, I will lose money. Still, last week was green regardless of the choppiness, and this week is currently red. It'll probably end green statistically just because I'm still able to scrape together some good trades. But every morning, man, very, very indecisive. And the way it chopped this morning was very unique. It wasn't like it chopped yesterday. And just for reference, here was yesterday's market open. If you look at my left screen here, this is ES on the left, NQ on the right. Look at this. And I missed out on this run, unfortunately, because I closed my broker right before it happened. So that was choppy. Here was Friday. I lost on Friday because it broke away from my bias. Here was last Thursday. As you can see, this chop lasted for 30 minutes. Still ended up green, though. This is the way it broke at the end. And here was Wednesday. And then Tuesday was not choppy. At least at the beginning. It chopped after, right? So Tuesday didn't open choppy, but 20 minutes after open, then it chopped. So it's 5 days in a row of hell. And I'm going to take a break from alerting in my channel, because on some of these days I'm able to trade much better, much quicker, all of the above when I'm not typing in a channel. Now I'm pretty damn fast at what I do. I have been alerting that way since August of 2021, I think, is when I started alerting my trades. So I type very fast. I have a bunch of screens. I'm on the active trader. I don't think there's a more efficient alerter than me, right? But with the insane chop and the insane speed at which my sentiments flip, it started messing me up finally today. And I'll talk about that in a bit, but just absolutely insane. So I may take a break. I'm still going to be in VC, a voice chat as always, live trading with you guys. But, as far as typing in my alert channel, I may stop that until CPI gets over with on Thursday. And then we'll see where the market's at. If tomorrow and Thursday are okay, I'll bring it back Friday. But honestly, yeah, it's rough. And if I have a really strong TA bias, then I will alert it like I did yesterday. That way everyone can still make money. But as far as actually alerting every single contract that I enter and whatnot, it's just price action is flipping my sentiment too fast for me to be able to do it properly. But anyways, here's the pre-market analysis. As you can see, this is a nice pivot up here. Nice cluster of pivots. I'm fairly bullish for this to hit. We have bullish liquidity sweeps here. We have two lower lows. We invalidated a majority of the drop. NQ stronger than ES. We've been trending relatively up. Not a crazy bullish bias, but bullish enough. Now let me go to my alert channel so I don't miss anything. But I pretty much just took 2 trades, split in half. But all right. Here was market open. We started with a very massive wick. And now in hindsight, these wicks aren't a very big deal, but you have to understand and try to picture live. This was a massive, massive green candle, which was pretty bizarre. But I actually had some hope. I'm like, okay, that's a pretty volatile open. Maybe this morning will not be choppy. This happens. I end up filling on my calls at the end of this candle. I just filled pretty much half size, a little bit less than half size on both. Between both, I was fairly light, and it's because we had really heavy supply in the way, and I wanted to be able to add. So I filled light positions in both SPX and QQQ. Now you guys know I do this when I don't know which is going to be stronger. NQ was stronger at the start. It shot all the way up, but then it came all the way down. Now ES is stronger. We're having a lot of strength changes kind of right off the bat. And now notice these wicks. All of these were bright green candles before they put in their selling wicks. Huge selling wick on NQ and huge buying wick on both of these candles. Another big wick. Another big selling wick. Another big wick. This time it's a buying wick. I took my ad pretty much at the close of this candle. Now between both trades, I was a little bit more than full size between both. So I was roughly a full trade and a quarter, right? 1.25x between both trades. So combined, that's where I was. So a little more than half size in each. Another selling wick. I'm like, are you kidding me? When you have a ton of selling wicks like this, it is a massive indication of a short squeeze, and usually you will not get more than 3 in a row. Okay, in the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 candles, 6 of them have had major selling wicks, and now we have nearly a perfect trend line. I'm very bullish for this trend line to break to the upside, but I'm thinking it's going to sweep my stop loss. Again, ES is stronger than NQ. My SPX calls are actually green by roughly 20%. They're actually doing okay, and 20% because of the ad. But that doesn't last long. We reject supply. We get a big buying wick right here. I believe this is the buying wick to where I put my stop loss. If we invalidate the buying wick, I'm out. My average on this trade is now lower. My average dropped all the way to roughly 40 cents on QQQ, but the contracts are chopping a ton. There's this buying wick. If this buying wick, because again, look at these wicks. So indecisive. Every single candle besides 2, this one, which still had wicks, and this one, 12 candles from market open, 10 out of the 12 had huge wicks. Most of them on either side of the candle. See, over the last 4 days, it's been choppy opens, but it's been like this. Not like this. Like wicks everywhere. So this is a different kind of chop, and I was not expecting this, and it was pretty frustrating. We did end up breaking to the upside, and I am pretty bullish. Looked great. I finally hit break even on my calls. But ES flipped super weak, unfortunately. And I stopped out on this candle. It rejected supply yet again. And keep in mind, it's not like futures. I can't just hold, right? The contracts are chopping. So, yep, that was not fun at all. I filled my loss at minus 29%, minus 26%. So I'm down, but because again, those between both trades, I was a little bit bigger than full size. So I'm roughly down 133% full size red trade. So not a crazy red by any means, but the contracts chopped a ton. Keep in mind, it didn't really go anywhere. So 30% loss is kind of steep. But I do say puts look okay here, but I just can't get into puts. It's just far too high of a risk to sweep one of these lows and bounce. I can get triggered into puts if we do something like this. I can do that. But the first trade I entered was really good, was really likely to hit, and it just was not liking that supply. We end up going down, and we hit demand, and then we spike back up. It looks like it is time for redemption. Now, before this happened, 59, NQ missed this pivot. Not only that, but ES missed this pivot and missed demand. You can kind of see a head and shoulders happening. So if we invalidate this bounce, I'm able to get into puts. Well, we start validating the bounce. And I filled QQQ puts when this missed the low yet again, but started bouncing. I'm like, all right, this is pretty bearish. This is pretty bearish. I filled QQQ puts. I actually did pretty good. I filled them roughly at the top of the candle because I was looking for a bounce to get in. I can't enter when it's all the way down here. The risk to reward's too bad. But if it barely misses it and bounce, it's even more likely to break it when it comes back down. And it looks pretty good. And I'm going to have to stop out if we come back up. Keep in mind, I check Market Watch every single morning to see if there's going to be any news. And Market Watch said, and you guys can check yourself, US Econ Calendar Market Watch said there was only news at 3 a.m. Okay? It did not include other news, so I'm permanently done with Market Watch. Trading economics is better. I was not expecting news at 7 o'clock. Now, granted, this wasn't a very big trade, but then this candle happened. And again, it doesn't look like much in the past, but you must keep in mind, I was very bullish for ES to break this supply, okay? And during most of this candle, it was a massive green candle to the upside, triggering me back into calls. Now, the order to which I did it didn't really help me or hurt me, but it happened so fast. I filled SPX calls on my active trader and then stopped out of my QQQ puts. Well, I ended up stopping out of those QQQ puts at break even because right after I filled my SPX calls, this massive green candle got struck by an asteroid and turned around on a dime and went all the way down. So I ended up stopping out of my QQQ puts like perfectly at break even, just market sell. And then now I was in SPX calls at a loss. Now keep in mind, I only filled literally 2 SPX calls. It was really small. But this is where I got messed up today because of alerting. Now imagine that happening as fast as it did with the trades that I just told you, and I'm typing in a channel everything that's happening. It's pretty impossible to do. So that was pretty irritating. That QQQ put trade got 30% that I didn't get. I'm like, well, now I'm bullish. I'm bearish for NQ to get demand and ES to sweep low of day. I mean, I would have loved to be in here, but I didn't know there was news, and I got absolutely hornswoggled. Now, I was still remained in my SPX position. Not really fantastic psychology. That's kind of the only error I made. But we did sweep the low and then come up, and I did re-enter calls because now this is the proper trade. First off, we started off with insane chop here on NQ. It's not as bad. I tried catching this move because typically, like, if market is chopping but it's at least getting to pivots like it did, I'll be green. And I was set up to do that, except news absolutely screwed me and flipped me sides and just demolished me. So this morning really could have been green if a couple tiny things didn't happen. So this was supposed to be green trade plus 30%. Now I have these crappy SPX cells, only a tiny position, but we start bouncing, and if we come back up, I'm triggered into calls again, both SPX and QQQ, because I cannot figure out which is stronger. Look here. Very, very, very strong NASDAQ candle. Very weak ES candle. Huge green candle on NASDAQ. Tiny green candle on ES. You'd think that NQ is a lot stronger, but it just dumped a lot harder than ES did. And then, spoiler alert, NQ flips weak right after this candle, and ES ends up catching up. But regardless, it's nearly at my entry. I'm like, all right, you know what, whatever. I mean, we have this trend line and we have this one. It doesn't matter. I had this one drawn out. If we get back up to here, the SPX call trade I took at the time was valid. I didn't know that there was news, so I didn't think that was like a new scandal or anything. But this is the trade I'm looking at. And now keep in mind, I still have 2 SPX contracts that have chopped horribly. But I fill it on this candle. All right, I fill my calls on this candle. I got a pretty good fill on QQQ. I filled them at, I don't think I didn't type in my channel what I filled them at, but I filled the same calls that I was in -1 strike. So instead of the 64.25 calls, I filled 64.20. Instead of the 582, I filled the 581. So I filled the calls here, and I still have my thinkorswim open, so I can check exactly what I filled those calls at. Let me see. Oh, that's what it was. So SPX calls were filled at $2.10, and the market is mooning right now. some reason. And I filled the QQQ calls at roughly 47 cents, something like that. So I was looking pretty good. I filled SPX a little bit smaller, but it was almost to my PT. I was really only looking for it to break this high and break supply. Was looking good, nice and green. I flipped green on the day here. Because even these tiny SPX calls that I had even flipped green. And then we missed my PT by half of 1 point on ES. We put in a perfect double top on ES. You guys know I'm very bullish for perfect double tops to break. I was willing to average up on this trade when this happened, but only if most of this drop invalidates. That was really good psychology, really good self-control because I wanted to do it. We came all the way down and stopped out. So I stopped out on this candle. I was up 60% on SPX, and what was I up? Roughly 50% on QQQ, like 45 to 50% on QQQ, and 60% on SPX is what I was up. And it barely missed my price target. I didn't trim a dime because it's a perfect double top. When was the last time that's happened to me? You guys probably don't remember because I don't. It's rare, right? Statistically very unlikely to happen. And I sell for a loss. So the first set of trades, fine, it's a loss, whatever. The second trade, the QQQ puts, should have been 30%, but I got absolutely hornswoggled out of it by news I didn't know existed. And then this trade barely missed my freaking price target. And, it was a pretty hard trade to stop out of. I did not want to stop out at all, as most of you guys don't, but you got to do it. You got to have perfect psychology. Except the red today. I'm red by roughly 3 red trades. Because the first trade between SPX and QQQ, and the reason I was in both because they keep switching. I told you guys here, NQ was so much stronger here, but then it flips super weak, and ES flips super strong. Like, they keep going back and forth. It's crazy lately. But the first trade was a little bit bigger than full size. This trade was a little bit bigger than full size. So between both the trades, it's roughly 3 trades worth. And I did sell these trades for minus. Forgot what I sold them for minus. Like, it was minus, like, I don't know. That my stop loss was fairly tight. It was like roughly minus 25% ish. But granted, it was up 60%. So yeah, very rough morning. Enough for me to be like, want to take a break from alerting or typing out my alerts, because this price action has not been fun over the last 5 trading days in a row. But thank God for stop losses, though, because if I didn't honor it, it kept on dropping. Now, I technically was able to get triggered into call puts here on this bear flag, but I still have bullish bias left. We put in a perfect double top. I'm unwilling to lose because, keep in mind, I kept my options broker open for one thing. It was to re-enter calls. Because, yes, I could enter puts here. It doesn't look bad, but you know what also didn't look bad? The last trade I was in. And the last trade I was in had way better odds than this trade, because this trade is a lower low, right? The other ones had lower highs. I could enter this trade, and yeah, I would have made money, but I only enter trades I'm unwilling to lose on it, and I'm unwilling to lose money on this trade, because if I stop out of this trade, then I'm reconfirmed back into calls. So not only am I taking a loss here if it comes up, but then I have to re-enter calls here and potentially take 2 losses back to back. I'm unwilling to potentially risk 2 losses back to back. It doesn't matter how likely I think they are to happen. Clearly, over the last couple of days, the unlikely events have been playing out a higher percentage of the time, or roughly 50-50, which is way too much. So I was unwilling to lose twice in a row. It's either wait for calls or nothing at all. And this first hour finished, and then I moved on with futures. I did end up having a green futures day. I took a reversal trade here. It perfectly swept my stop loss just to continue the terrible luck, as you can see. But I did end up taking a huge ES long trade all the way back up to new high of day, because I told you guys this is a perfect double top. I'm still very bullish for this to break. If it comes back up, I will be in there like underwear. And I was in a bit early. I filled it something like that. I took it all the way up to here, so it worked out. Oh, barely missed my stop loss too. That was a pretty cool part. My stop loss was like right here. And I usually don't take high risk to reward trades, so this one was fairly special. But all right, that was my morning. Was not a fun morning at all. Did not have a fun time. Got hornswoggled. And but it's okay. You know, good psychology for the most part. Those SPX calls technically weren't the best psychology. But does anyone have any questions regarding anything I just talked about? And like I said, I'll take a break from alerting in my channel. I'm just going to be in voice as I always am. And once the market stops chopping, I know my luck. It's gonna the second I stop alerting, I'm gonna have a fantastic trading day tomorrow on options. I'm gonna wait, not give in, have a fantastic day on Thursday despite it being CPI. I'm gonna come back Friday and it's gonna be atrocious. It's probably what's gonna happen, but we will see. All right, sweet. No one has any questions? I know where Kai's typing, but I don't want to. Let's all not lose our psyche over this red streak. Yeah, well, my futures, luckily yesterday was not a red day on options, but yeah, my futures had a red day yesterday. Today ended up being green, luckily. Hopefully tomorrow can be better. But all right, I will see you guys later. I'll let you guys know when this is posted on YouTube. I'll post it right now, and I'll just send the link out right when it's processing. And yes, it is recorded Lunacy. Yep. All right, I'll see you guys later.